This is Chapter 7 of The Guardian of Ailos. Nelson marveled at the conversation between Sid and the furry creature. A hum here and a chuckle there. It was almost as if they understood each other. According to Sid, they could. Every once in a while, she'd turn around and translate directions to Nelson or comment on the creature's stories. Apparently, his name is Harold, and he is a stream-tailed marmot. There used to be many more, but most of them left during the war or were taken. That seems to be true for everyone in this place. After the dragon, most living things disappeared, were destroyed, or taken. As they rounded one last hill, the town square of the little city they saw from the cliff came into view. With nighttime approaching, the massive cathedral in the middle of the city loomed before them, its spire reaching into the darkening sky like a gnarled finger. Tattered flags fluttered in a breeze Nelson couldn't feel, and scorch marks marred the cobblestone streets. Whatever happened here, it wasn't good. "Sid," Nelson whispered, his voice tight with anxiety. "Something's not right. Can't you feel it?" Before Sid could answer, a low growl rumbled through the air. Their furry companion, the stream-tail marmot, hunched its back and bared its tiny teeth. "Get ready to run," Sid murmured, her hand instinctively grasping her locket. Nelson's eyes widened as a massive shape slithered into view atop the cathedral. Part lizard, part wolf, with fur that seemed to absorb the fading light. Its eyes glowed an angry red, and saliva dripped from fangs as long as Nelson's forearm. Two more emerged from the shadows, flanking them. Nelson's heart pounded in his chest, fear threatening to overwhelm him. But as he looked at Sid, determination etched on her face. Something else stirred within him. He couldn't let her face this alone. "What's the plan?" he asked. Sid was already flipping through the book, her fingers flying across the pages. "There's something in here, I know it. A way to fight them." The large beast, a demon dog Nelson's mind supplied unhelpfully, leapt from the cathedral with earth-shaking force. Cracks spiderwebbed across the cobblestone beneath its massive paws. "Sid, whatever you're going to do it fast." Nelson positioned himself between her and the approaching monster. Suddenly, light burst from Sid's locket, enveloping her in a brilliant blue glow. Her feet lifted off the ground as words in an unknown language poured from her lips. A song. The demon dog hesitated, snarling at the barrier of light that slowly expanded outward. Nelson felt a surge of hope. "That's it, Sid. You got this." The hope didn't last long. He noticed the strain in Sid's voice. The light flickered, and the largest demon dog's snarl curved into something like a smile. The light began to recede. Nelson grabbed Harold and backpedaled, keeping pace with the shrinking circle of safety. "Come on, Sid, just a little longer." It was no use. With a final, desperate flare, the light vanished. Sid crumpled to the ground, exhausted. The demon dogs charged forward, triumph in their glowing red eyes. Nelson acted on instinct. He scooped up the book and held it above his head like a shield, placing himself between Sid and certain death. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the impact of claws and fangs. Instead, he heard a battle cry that sent chills down his spine. His eyes flew open just in time to see a blur of motion. A woman with wild, tangled hair, wielding a flaming sword. She moved with impossible speed and grace, her blade flashing as it cleaved through one of the smaller demon dogs. The two remaining beasts split up, one facing the mysterious warrior while the other lunged for Nelson and Sid. Nelson swung the book desperately, connecting with the demon dog's jaw. He wasn't fast enough to dodge the retaliatory swipe of its massive paw. Pain exploded across his shoulder as claws ripped through his shirt and into flesh. "Stand your ground," the warrior woman shouted, tossing Nelson her flaming torch as she engaged the other beast. Nelson found himself face to face with the largest demon dog. Its hot, rancid breath washed over him as it loomed closer. Nelson raised the torch, his arms shaking with fear and adrenaline, and then, impossibly, the beast spoke. "This world belongs to us." "Yours, dear Nelson," it growled, its voice like gravel in a meat grinder. "He's coming for your world next." Nelson's mind reeled. "How? How do you know my name?" The demon dog's mouth stretched into a grotesque approximation of a smile. "My master sees you. He's marked you, and not even your little guardian can save you now." As the beast pounced, Nelson saw a flash of silver. The warrior woman shoved him aside, her sword arcing upward to meet the demon dog's attack. There was a sickening crunch, and then silence. Nelson looked up to see the woman standing over him, her sword piercing straight through the demon dog's massive body. "This isn't over," growled the last remaining beast as it limped away into the shadows. The warrior turned to Nelson. She shoved the carcass aside, and he braced himself for he wasn't sure what, but when she spoke, her voice was unexpectedly young and cheerful. "Hello there," she said with a smile that transformed her battle-worn face. "I'm Mina. What's your name?" She sounded almost playful, not at all what Nelson expected. In fact, his mind was still struggling to process everything that had just happened. He glanced at Sid, who was starting to stir, then over at the defeated dogs, and finally back at their mysterious savior. She had an arm outstretched. I'm Nelson," he managed to squeeze out between racing heartbeats. Thank you." He meant it. He was very thankful. If she didn't show up, Nelson didn't dare think of what would have happened. Instead, reached up for her hand. Something told him she was their best bet for surviving this place. The eerie silence of the abandoned city was broken by an unexpected sound. A cheerful, high-pitched "hee." Mina's eyes lit up at the sight of the creature, and she dropped Nelson's hand immediately, leaving him back on the cold, stony ground. "You know," she said, turning her gaze to Nelson and Sid, "you shouldn't be out here all alone at sundown. No, no, nasty things come lurking with the shadows. Nasty things indeed." Nelson exchanged a glance with Harold, taken aback by Mina's rapid shift from fierce warrior to eccentric caretaker. "It's a good thing I saw you on the cliff. On the cliff. Yes, I saw you. Up, up, up. What is the reason for this?" Mina's words tumbled out in a stream of consciousness, punctuated by sudden changes of topic. She looked back at Harold and paused, then continued. "Good question. I don't know. Should I ask him?" "Ask him. Yes, I shall. Hmm. A faucet. Yes, I agree. The girl could use some water. Yes, indeed." Mina stood up and spun around, her movements now more erratic than graceful. "Ah, yes," she exclaimed, pointing towards the looming cathedral. "Water flows from such a spigot," she mumbled as she walked away, leaving Nelson bewildered. Nelson looked over at Harold. The marmot returned his gaze with a wry smile and a twitch of its ear. Mmm, it hummed, shrugging its tiny shoulders. Nelson felt he understood perfectly. The little guy was just as lost. Harold pointed solemnly at Sid. "He?" It hummed, the sound rising at the end like a question. She only just started to stir. "I think she's okay," Nelson said, kneeling beside Sid. "But I don't know what to do. What if that demon dog comes back? We can't just stay here." His eyes scanned the desolate square, taking in the cracked cobblestones and the massive paw prints left by their attackers. The abandoned town around them seemed to loom closer, its crumbling buildings a stark reminder of the dangers they'd faced. The skeletal remains of what must have been a grand tree stood at the center, its bare branches reaching towards the night sky. Woo! Mina's voice echoed off the stone walls as she danced in a spray of water. She had somehow managed to break off the spigot entirely, creating an impromptu fountain. Nelson rolled his eyes. Great. Now I have two pets to look after. Harold let out a small growl, standing up on his hind legs with his arms crossed. What? Nelson asked. Come on, come on, Mina called, her sing-song voice cutting through the chill night air. Water plenty here, plenty there. Drink your fill, drink. Nelson tried to lift Sid, but pain shot through his injured arm. He groaned, slumping over with his friend still in his arms. My, dear Nelson, wait, Mina said, suddenly by his side. Your shoulder. Shoulder, yes, it's hurt. Blood, lots of blood. You cannot lift her, no, you. Please, Nelson interrupted, his voice strained. Just help me get her into the church and find a cup for water. Mina nodded, her demeanor shifting once again as she gently lifted Sid. As they made their way into the imposing structure, Nelson couldn't help but marvel at the intricate stonework, weathered by time, but still bearing traces of its former grandeur. Faded murals depicting strange, otherworldly scenes lined the walls, hinting at a connection to Ailos that Nelson couldn't quite grasp. After settling Sid on a dusty bench, Mina paused, her eyes distant. Number of... no, she muttered. One of two, but maybe? Either way, food, yes, she needs food, can't wait. As Mina hurried off, muttering about provisions, Nelson found himself alone with his thoughts, and the weight of the stone in his pocket grew. Should he use it? Could he use it? He scanned the empty courtyard for signs of Mina. Where did she go? He whispered. Where did who go? Sid's weak voice startled him. Nelson rushed to her side, noticing her locket glinting in the moonlight. For a moment, he felt an inexplicable urge to take it, to use its power himself. But the thought vanished as quickly as it had come. Are you okay? You had me worried. I think I'll be fine. Just tired, Sid replied, wincing as she sat up. I'm starting to realize that using the power takes a lot out of me. Her eyes widened as she noticed Nelson's injury. Oh no, your arm. It's bleeding. Are they still out there? What were those things? Nelson recounted their rescue, his voice rising with excitement as he described Mina's incredible fighting skills. He hesitated, however, when he reached the part about the demon dog knowing his name. Something held him back from sharing that particular detail. Anyway, now she's gone, he concluded. I don't know where. She just kind of backed out of here mumbling about food and stuff. Good news is, you're awake now and we can go. Go? After what you said about the dragon? Nelson, we have to find out how to stop him. We don't know how much time is left, and if he really is trying to get to our realm, don't you think we should try? Think about your mom. Her words struck Nelson. The vision of his mother in danger flashed through his mind. Anger and fear welled up inside of him. My mom? What do you think I'm doing, Sid? I'm trying to go back and save her. You're the one who wants to play detective and find I don't know what. And what are we supposed to do when we find it, huh? The moment the words left his mouth, Nelson regretted them. He stormed out of the church, collapsing on the stone steps outside. As he sat there, the stone in his pocket seemed to grow heavier, its warmth a constant reminder of his secret burden. Inside, Sid fought back tears, hurt by Nelson's outburst, but understanding the fear behind it. She made her way outside, finding Nelson hunched over on the steps. "Nelson," she called softly. He jumped, startled, quickly stuffing something back into his pocket. "Sid," he began. "Look, I have something to tell you." No, you're right. It isn't fair that I keep dragging you into my mess. You've always been such a good friend to me. You do everything I ask of you. You follow me everywhere I go, even into hidden realms." Sid wrapped her arms around him in a tight hug. The simple gesture of friendship seemed to melt away his anger and fear, if only for a moment. "Thank you, Sid," he whispered, "and I'm sorry too. I should never have yelled at you. If you trust that book, then I trust you." Movement in the market caught Sid's eye. "Someone's out there," she whispered. "They're far away, but I can see something moving through the market." Nelson squinted into the darkness. "Yeah, that's her. That's Mina." As the figure approached, they could make out a large sack on Mina's back. Sid instinctively clutched her locket, but Nelson gently took her free hand. "It's okay," he assured her. "She won't hurt us. I think she's here to help." Mina stopped at the large dead tree in the center of the square, setting down her burden. Come, the food is for you, my dear, for you," she called. Her eyes lowered respectfully as she addressed Sid. "See what I bring? Ring, dinner and bedding and thingamathings." As they approached, Nelson noticed how Mina kept her distance, her gaze fixed on Sid's hand where the locket was hidden beneath her shirt. The sack turned out to be a treasure trove of supplies, bedding, clothing, and enough food for both of them. As they sorted through the items, Sid discreetly tucked her locket further out of sight. The change in Mina was immediate. "I'd like to help you, yes, I would. Is that okay? I'm good at finding, at getting, and sniffing," Mina offered, her demeanor more relaxed. "I think that's a great idea," Nelson replied, earning a skeptical look from Sid. As they made their way back to the church, Sid introduced herself properly. "My name's Sydney. What's yours?" "Name? My name? It's Mina. Nice to meet you, Sydney, sweet. Your name is sweet. I like it." Sid paused, a flicker of sadness crossing her face. "Sydney, sweet," she repeated softly. "Yes, it's sweet. Your name. Is that okay? I like it. Mine is Mina." "Yes, of course," Sid said. "It's okay. My mom used to call me that, and it's been a long time since I've seen her." As they settled into the church for the night, the weight of their adventures seemed to press down on them. Nelson's stomach growled loudly, prompting laughter from Sid and Mina. The sound echoed through the cavernous space, a moment of lightness in the midst of their uncertain journey. Later, as Sid and Mina slept, Nelson found himself unable to rest. He sat near one of the high windows and gazed out at the abandoned town, now eerily peaceful under the stars, the stone from his pocket cradled in his palm. Its surface seemed to shimmer in the moonlight, hinting at hidden depths. A small voice inside of him stirred, one that both soothed and disturbed him, one that said, "You can have it all, but at what cost?" Thanks for listening to Chapter 7 of The Guardian of Ailos. As a reminder, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment or come find us on Substack, and we'll be right back next week with Chapter 8